Hello, everyone, and thanks for being here. I'm Laura Beth Ezel, and I'll be moderating today's event. One of the top issues schools face is preparing students for the new ambiguous world of work. The modern workforce will demand agility, which is why schools need to focus on future-proofing their students through a renewed emphasis on transferable skills. That's where educators are looking at new opportunities, seeking out hands-on, project-based learning that builds the technical and professional skills needed to succeed in college and the workforce. Now, today we're going to explore how one such example, Project Lead the Way, partners with schools and the community to foster collaboration and engagement with modern career and technical education. But before we get started, I have just a few housekeeping items. Please note the slides will advance automatically throughout the presentation. To enlarge the slides, click the Enlarge Slides button located in the top right corner of your presentation window. If you need technical assistance, click on the Help widget that's located on the bottom left corner of your console. Now, we do encourage you to submit questions at any time throughout the presentation using the Q&A widget at the bottom of your console. We will try to answer these during the webcast, but if a fuller answer is needed or we just run out of time, it will be answered later via email. So please know that we do capture all of your questions. Now I'd like to welcome our guest, Martha McCabe, Senior Vice President of Community Partnerships at Project Lead the Way. She's also the former Executive Director of KC STEM Alliance, which we'll hear more about in a minute. And Chrissy Chandler, who is Community Impact Education Manager at J.E. Dunn Construction, the 8th largest general contractor in the country, where she oversees its K-12 construction education initiative. She's also a former educator who has used the Project Lead the Way curriculum and has also been a program consultant at KC STEM Alliance. We are delighted to have you both here, not only because of your shared passion for equipping today's students, but because of the history you have together. Both of you previously worked with KC STEM Alliance, which has a fascinating partnership with Project Lead the Way. So can you give us, a brief overview of KC STEM Alliance, just to help our attendees here understand that background, Martha?
Absolutely, Laura Beth. The KC STEM Alliance was created by an investment by the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation here in Kansas City. And it was on the heels of their community-wide survey asking residents and citizens what they thought about STEM. And the response they got back was that STEM's important, but not for me. Well, that's not going to work for a community like Kansas City that is headquarters to J.E. Dunn, to Garmin, to two very large engineering consulting firms, Burns & McDonnell and Black & Veatch, and a global architecture firm, Populous, and many, many other STEM companies. And so what they did at the time, and this is mid-2000s, they looked around and thought, what is available and best in class in STEM curriculum for the school day, but also a STEM experience in the after-school time. And they identified Project Lead the Way as the in-school solution and FIRST Robotics as the out-of-school solution. And they made that investment in all of our area schools on both sides of the state line, Missouri and Kansas. And that started in 2006. With that investment also was the encouragement to bring all of those corporate partners and other foundation partners together in this workforce development journey. So we're now 19 years in to the investment in Project Lead the Way. The KC STEM Alliance was created in 2011 to pull together support for both Project Lead the Way and FIRST Robotics up underneath one umbrella, and to be hosted by the University of Missouri, Kansas City, to give us some infrastructure support at the KC STEM Alliance. I had the pleasure and privilege to lead that organization for 10 years. And when I look back at that implementation and its ongoing support in Kansas City, that implementation of Project Lead the Way now reaches all 42 school districts on both sides of the state line, as well as 28 private and charter schools, and last year reached 92,000 students from preschool all the way up through 12th grade. It also gave us a common language to talk about STEM education, so that when we are visiting, when schools are visiting with companies like J.E. Dunn, there's a shared understanding and a shared common language. And that's a model that Project Lead the Way is looking to replicate in other communities across the country, which is why I had the opportunity to come to Project Lead the Way and replicate what happened in Kansas City.
Excellent. Sounds exciting, and excited to learn more. So thank you for setting that up for us. So let's dig in here. We know the world of work is evolving before our eyes, and schools are at an inflection point. So how is this impacting the skills today's student will need to be successful? And how are schools responding? Martha?
Well, schools are trying to help students feel comfortable in this very fast changing environment. But we also know that change is normal. We have to help our young people understand that there's not only going to be new technology, but they may also, as technology moves and changes and new things come and go, the opportunity for them to shift careers, maybe shift work locations is really, really important. And they also have to understand that with that changing pace also comes the opportunity to work on different projects, maybe work with different coworkers. And for some, maybe they'll spend some of their time in an office environment, but maybe they'll also be out on site. And so we've found that one of the things as we look at young professionals, and we surveyed young professionals here in the Kansas City metro, a couple of the things that they talked about beyond just these skills that you see here on the slide were two skill sets that kind of came to the top. And one was proactivity. So learning how to, when you have available time in your schedule, to be proactive and think about other activities and projects that you can bring to the table, as opposed to just waiting on somebody to help direct you. And then the last one is called executive functioning. Now, I think most of us would call that adulting. So how do you show up on time if you have an event the night before? How do you manage yourself so you can be productive in the workplace the next day? And I think those things are all skill sets that we can help our young people, even while they're in elementary, middle, and high school, develop those skills. And one of the ways that Project Lead the Way does that is through having students spend more time with teammates and working on projects.
Yeah,
I'm going to kick it over to you, Chrissy.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, if I had some leadership here listening to what Martha said, they would be like jumping up and down, screaming and cheering her on, and with like pom-poms. They would be so excited. Because when she speaks to that agility, that flexibility piece, as we get into this space into this space at J. Dunn, where we're moving into building these large data centers across the United States, we have 26 offices across the United States. We need those young people who are willing to be flexible and agile, because J. Dunn, they're incentivizing these young people to be in different roles where she's absolutely right. You may be in the office or you may be in the field building something, especially as we talk about our skilled trades and craft workers and those project managers, those two key positions that we are really looking for as we look across the United States. And what do we see going on? Things are being built all the time, all over the place. This is a really growing industry, the construction industry. And so we need these people who have those agile, flexible skills and are able to move across this field and do different types of work. So the thing about that is, of course, those are those soft skills when we talk about that agile mindset. Those base level skills, the engineering skills, those how to build things skills. We always say, if you send someone to us, of course they come to us, they have a bachelor's degree, they've gone through their apprenticeship. Anything else, we can fill in those gaps there. It's those durable skills that we need them to come to us learning. And that's the wonderful thing about Project Lead the Way. Having been a Project Lead the Way teacher, of course, we try and instill in them those hard skills in the classroom. That's what Project Lead the Way does. But it's those durable skills, the ability to be collaborative, to be flexible, to move between projects. That's what Project Lead the Way does so well, and why it's such a powerful tool in the classroom.
Yeah, and that type of approach is not only more aligned with what's needed for future success, but I would imagine it is more engaging for students. And that's the goal of, curriculum like Project Lead the Way. So can you give us a brief overview of this model, Martha?
Absolutely. So when you look at Project Lead the Way, whether you're looking at a preschool launch module, launch is the name of the elementary program, or a middle school unit in Gateway, or one of the high school classrooms in any of the pathways, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the webinar. The approach is called APB, or Activities, Project, Problem. And that approach cycles through all of the lessons, all of the units, all of the classes. And it's an opportunity for the students to develop skills through the different activities that they are walking through. Then the teacher presents them with a project that they have to work with team members, and they don't get to work with the same team members on every project. So they're going to work with maybe their friends, maybe folks that they wouldn't necessarily go out and have pizza with. So it teaches them how to work with a variety of classmates. And then they're presented with a problem. And what I like about this approach is that Project Lead the Way presents the problem to the educators in the classroom, and they can use that, or they can also identify a problem that's right there in their own community. So there is flexibility in the curriculum to be able to do that. The other thing that's interesting is that it gives students this real healthy experience around failure. I remember one of the elementary students was having to make, they had read Jack and the Beanstalk, and they were having to make a beanstalk, and she was getting really frustrated because her beanstalk kept falling over. And at one point I was cycling through on a school visit, and she was really frustrated. She said, "This is the 5th time it's fallen down." But she kept trying different things. She was looking and visiting with her teammates. And at the end, she actually found a way to make her beanstalk stand up. So just that persistence, that teamwork, I think is really important. The other thing that's fascinating about the model in Project Lead the Way is the best-in-class teacher professional development. So when a teacher is trained in Project Lead the Way, whether it's elementary, a middle school course, or a high school course, they are taught by master teachers who are Project Lead the Way teachers. So they're bringing their classroom experience into the professional development and teaching other teachers how to teach that content, and then best practices in the classroom. And we hear over and over again that professional development is so important. And I think that helps demonstrate that we obviously care about the outcomes for the students, but we also want to be actively involved in teacher satisfaction. We think we are a solution for teacher retention, and make sure that we do what we can to support teachers so that they see Project Lead the Way as a solution and potentially a way to reach students that they haven't been able to reach in the past.
Yeah, and that's the wonderful thing. It's in these very intentional 3 spaces where Project Lead the Way really shines. And that's in the school space, supporting teachers, meeting them where they are, and helping guide them through implementing it in their classroom. It really gives me, I'm trained in 3 different Project Lead the Way modules, and it really gave me the confidence. The computer science part, I came from industry, so I was already an IT professional, had some background in web design, but then in Project Lead the Way, I had to pivot to teaching Python and Java. But after going through the professional development, I felt completely prepared. I had no problem appearing to be an expert in front of my students as I guided them through the module. Another way they're very intentional is in the out of school space. Helping connect the young people to mentors, and bringing in volunteers who support the students and guide them through the curriculum as professional industry mentors. And that's really important for a couple of reasons. One, we always say students have to see it to be it. So the opportunity to work alongside a professional and that's actually doing the work, it also helps kids build that confidence. And then they're able to be there, industry's able to be there, support the students. But then also, I remember feeling supported as a teacher from my industry partner. So Project Lead the Way's intentionality around that, It's really robust and also really appreciated by the teachers and the students.
Yeah, and let's explore, the industry side a bit more there. Since the goal of school is to prepare students for work, it's vital to have that connection between schools and local businesses in the community. So, how can schools collaborate with workplaces to fill gaps, their communities are experiencing? Martha?
So when you think about the industry engagement, and thanks for this slide deck. This is a list of courses, also some courses that are on our product roadmap for development, like advanced manufacturing, which will be rolling out soon. But we really look at the development. We have 3 discrete pathways in engineering, biomed, and computer science, but we know that we have our industries that are interdisciplinary. And we also have students that are thinking about having interests in all 3 of those pathways. Interestingly, this is also going to align with Advanced CTE's new career clusters. So Project Lead the Way actually is going to fit into about 17 different pathways, depending on what school districts are looking to create alignment around, based on the industries that are in their own backyard. And so I really appreciate that Chrissy referenced, you can't be what you can't see. It is imperative that students understand what are not only the industries that are growing across the country and across the world, but also what makes their own community be vibrant and grow. Because some students, grow up and they think, oh, the first thing they want to do is leave their community. But there are a lot of students that have every intention to stay. I know here in Kansas City, fine if, go away, get some experience. We want you back. We want you back here working at J.E. Dunn. We want you back here working with some of the other business partners that are here. And so being able to have that career connection, to see somebody that either looks like them or has similar interests or maybe grew up in the same neighborhood, they see the possibilities and they can make those connections. And through the Project Lead the Way content, there's, I think, over 280 to 300 career connections that are made throughout the whole curriculum. But then when you infuse that local industry partner into the experience, that's where you start to hit that sweet spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And J. Dunn is so proud to partner with all of our school districts across the Kansas City region. So that's 40 plus school districts, charter schools, private schools, education-aligned not-for-profits, to create those engagement and exposure opportunities that really demonstrate to students that you can have a career here. Not only can you have a career here, man, we need you. We have more work and more things to build than we do people. There is such a need in this industry for skilled craft workers. So the opportunity to get into classrooms in front of students, help them understand the opportunities that exist, put professionals in front of them so that they can hear from people who are actually on the job, doing the job, hear their experiences, and then maybe say, what, I like what I hear. I think that's something I'd like to do. I want to learn more about that. So then it can help inform their journey. What classes do I need to take next? So I always, after every student engagement, what's next after this experience? You're going to go back to school. You're going to find a counselor. You're going to sign up for your Project Lead the Way class. You're going to join a robotics team. You're going to go to and find your construction technology class so you can practice all of these hands-on skills. So it's really about engaging early, engaging often, to inform them about the next steps in their journey so that they can hopefully come into this industry. And then also helping prepare teachers. We host teacher externships, bring them into our different buildings and really help inform them. This is what you can do to help prepare your students for this industry also.
Chrissy, I remember we were having this conversation both in your field, also when I think about healthcare. So many students will choose a high school healthcare pathway because they want to be a physician. And we need great physicians, but it's because that's all they know in healthcare. Yeah. They may not know all the variety of jobs and the amount of education that's required post high school in order to really create a robust healthcare workforce that's going to serve communities. And then you also think about all the pharmaceutical component, what we call here in Kansas City biologics. So the manufacturing process of medicines, the medicine development themselves. And a lot of students don't think about that. If they find themselves in healthcare courses, they're typically it's doctor, nurse, and if they had a sports injury, maybe physical therapy. And so the opportunity to really expand their understanding, same thing with construction, Chrissy. I remember you had an opportunity to share with our team at Project Lead the Way all of the jobs available at JE Dunn, and it's not just the construction worker. And while the construction worker is exceedingly important, none of our architects would have their buildings and their designs built without construction workers. But it's really laying it out for students.
And that's why I feel like the allowing teachers and encouraging teachers to connect with industry is so important, because there are jobs here that teachers don't even know about. Like there seriously, I've had teachers tell me, well, I have a young man and he wants to be a animation or game designer. And I tell them, you know what, that's amazing, because that's what our virtual design team does. And really allowing teachers to expand and be able to say, well, I met this young lady at JE Dunn, and I know you said you want to be a game designer, but I wonder if you want to go over there and do a job shadow and see what their virtual design team does, because that team is literally creating like animations, which we put on VR goggles, and someone is able to walk through their building before it's even built in a virtual environment. And that's the same skill that you would use as a game creator or an animator. So really allowing students to see that, yes, this is a great plan you have. Yes, we want you to use these skills, but here's another way you can use them as well. And guess what? You can use them right here in Kansas City. So that's what makes those industry connections so important, and why it's so important that Project Lead the Way encourages those connections.
Yeah, great examples from both of you. I'm excited, and I'm way past getting to be a part of a program like this. So this is so neat to listen to you both. And you've both worked directly with students in classes that emphasize preparing students with career opportunities. So I got to ask, can you share more of some of the success stories that you've already kind of been sharing, Martha?
Absolutely. We've known anecdotally in Kansas City that Project Lead the Way is working because it's been here for 19 years. We're starting to see those students show up at JE Dunn, show up at Burns and McDonnell, and be prepared and ready to go and contribute to the local workforce. But we also had the opportunity for Project Lead the Way to be the cohort of students that helped establish the Missouri State Longitudinal Data System. And with that establishment was a large research project that was led by the Urban Education Research Center at University of Missouri, Kansas City, in partnership with University of Missouri, Columbia, and University of Missouri, St. Louis. And I won't go into all the details of that study, but it was a very large, multiple thousands of students that they looked at to see what happens to these students upon leaving high school and matriculating to college. And no surprise, Project Lead the Way students outperformed their STEM-interested, peer-matched students in all categories that were looked at. So things like enrolling in college, declaring a STEM major, whether or not they needed to take remedial courses in college, and they don't, whether or not they attained dual credit, did they graduate from high school? We've seen high schools who implement Project Lead the Way and high school graduation rates actually go up because schools are providing terrific content for students and they see hope for their future and they stay in school. So it's been fascinating to watch this particular study not only look at what happens when they leave high school, but we now have the Missouri Department of Labor on board, and we'll be able to look at some labor statistics and And now that research group is interested in looking at, okay, well, what's the impact of middle school when you start having middle school engagement? I think the other interesting success story is how business and industry continues to come to the table. So next month, we'll have an event that the Kansas City STEM Alliance is hosting called Civil Engineering and Design Careers Day. And that's a day for all the high school students that are enrolled in Project Lead the Way, Civil Engineering and Architecture. They get to all come from, I think it'll be 27 different high schools to one location and learn about a variety of civil engineering disciplines within civil engineering, but also 6 different fields within design. So urban planning, graphic design, like Chrissy was talking about, which is so important for wayfinding. If you've ever been at a stadium or at an airport and you need to know where to go, that's part of construction companies and architecture firms, this whole wayfinding and graphic design. Industrial design, architectural design, landscape design, and interior design. So a day where students can really dive into and understand those nuances. And it's been great because, you know, when you have a large implementation of Project Lead the Way in one community, being able to break it down by course and then send those students that are in that course to have a very specific experience, it makes it terrific for the receiving corporate partner. And so we're excited. That's actually on October 14th this year. And thanks to the hard work of the KC STEM Alliance and our local chapter of AIA, the American Institute of Architects.
Yeah. And I love this. I actually owe someone a phone call to tell them that if they're done can participate. Thank you for the reminder, Martha.
You're welcome.
But it goes back to exposing students to the career possibilities. It makes them real. It makes it real, because as our teachers are miracle workers, they're angels, but they can't be all things to our students. So when they get to have opportunities like this, it just gives them confidence, which is wonderful. So I think back to, there was a young lady, and she took a class with me. She took Computer Science Essentials with me online during COVID. And I remember she had her camera on as much as she could. She ended up with an amazing grade, and the class ended. And I just remember thinking she did a great job. Well, we're back in person wearing masks, and this person walks into my classroom and she says, "Hi, Miss Chandler," and she's so excited, and she's like, I had so much fun taking the class. This is what we should do next. We need to start a Girls Who Code class, and we need to start a club that does this." And I'm looking at her thinking, this is amazing. Who are you? Because I hadn't seen her in person before. And she said, she pulls her mask down a little bit. She says, "It's me. I took Project Lead the Way Computer Science Essentials online." And she ended up taking a engineering class as well. And she was just so excited. And when she retells the story, she talks about how much she enjoyed the class, but then how much she enjoyed learning from and just was inspired by having a teacher that was so passionate about it, but then having a teacher that looked like her. And so now that young lady is majoring in computer science at the University of Missouri in Columbia and minoring in psychology. And she and we just went down to the Project Lead the Way office to do a podcast with Dave Demmons. So she is doing wonderful, and she is just loving her journey and so excited about the possibility of doing some Project Lead the Way alumni work. So she got to talk to Dave about that a little bit. And then I have that's a young lady that only took one class with me. So then I have I think about a young man who took multiple Project Lead the Way classes with me. I think he took all the way from middle school and then followed me into high school. Before that, he was on an elementary robotics team, graduated as a first robotics alum, because in Kansas City, we always say Project Lead the Way. There are some cities where they say Project Lead the Way and first, they don't work well together. That is not the case in Kansas City. Project Lead the Way is where our students go and they learn their skills. First is where they practice those skills and they find their families. So this young man right now, he is overseas. He is in the military, and he is on the cyber defense team for the United States military. And he just sent me, I don't want to give away and say where he's at, but he just sent me tons of pictures from the country, beautiful pictures from the country that he's in. Whenever he is able to get back stateside, I just went and had dinner with him and his family, and just another testament to the wonderful experiences that students get to have and how they take them and help form this amazing life after high school, after college, based on all the wonderful skills they got from their Project Lead the Way experiences.
Exciting. I'm like, more. I'm sure you have more, but well, for time's sake, we have to move on. So, in high school may seem like the right time to talk to schools about career options and connect them to potential future employers. But career exploration should start long before that. As a mother of a teen, I totally get that already. So what role, can elementary and middle schools play in helping build a solid foundation for career and technical education? Martha?
So when you think about what's happening with our high schools, and especially with this focus on being career ready, many districts are establishing academies or pathway models where students have to actually make that decision in the fall of their 8th grade year. Well, if you have not, as a school or a district, provided opportunities for that career exposure and the STEM skills development, students aren't going to be able to make that sort of decision. And then they're going to miss out on opportunities to develop those skills, gain confidence as they head off, whether it's to right into the workforce or to community college or university. So you actually really have to start those conversations and those experiences in classes no later than middle school, but even preferably as early as elementary school. And that's why Project Lead the Way established the launch program that starts in preschool. We know that so many students make decisions about whether or not they're even going to be good in school or that they like school as early as 3rd grade. And so you want to give them positive experiences so that they are interested in school, they're interested in learning, we maintain their curiosity. And that is so important because that then helps them with opportunities to enroll in middle school courses and then on into high school pathways. I think the other thing that's really important is a really solid math foundation. We also know that in some schools, the math track that you're on in order to take calculus in high school is established based on your 5th grade math score. So we really ask districts to think about math preparation so that students have the opportunity to get into those courses. And if there are students that are behind that curve, that there's opportunities for them to catch up so they can take those courses as their interests develop. And I think this numeracy initiative is really important. And so communities have smartly and wisely invested a lot of time in community efforts around literacy. We're beginning to have those conversations here in Kansas City, and then with the ecosystems that the team that I'm on at Project Lead the Way work with, both Indianapolis and St. Louis want to jump into this community project around numeracy as well. So what we want to change is that mindset that if a parent wasn't good in math, therefore the child's not going to be good in math. And what we're here to say is math success is not genetic. And so we want to provide positive experiences for students to see the value of math skills. And we think Project Lead the Way is one of the ways to do that, as well as these big community initiatives.
Yeah, and Martha, I loved when you spoke earlier about the younger kids and them making up their mind as to whether or not they are good at something. And that Project Lead the Way really gives kids this confidence, and that confidence is tied to a STEM identity. And that's just, I see myself as a math person. I see myself as a computer scientist. I see myself as an engineer. And the funny thing is, so my daughter, she took she took Project Lead the Way in middle school, and then took a robotics class with me in high school, and got really good grades in math. Was on the first robotics team from third grade until she graduated from high school. Really became a leader in this space. Graduated from high school as an Adobe certified professional. We sent her off to, we have some centers here, some where they can go off and take additional classes outside of their normal curriculum in order to get some of these professional level certifications. So she had the opportunity to go to one of those and graduated from high school as an Adobe certified professional. If you talk to her right now, she would probably not say to you, I am a STEM person, but she has all of this knowledge and these credentials and all of this success in STEM spaces that she will tell you about. So she gained this confidence that I don't even know that she's aware of that she has, and is now getting ready to enroll in college to add a business degree to all of these professional certifications that she's gotten. So I got to see firsthand with this wonderful young lady that lives with me go through these classes, have these experiences, and build this confidence where she may not necessarily, like the young lady I told you about before, she will tell you she is a STEM person. I am a computer scientist. I can do all these things. My daughter wouldn't use those words, but her resume demonstrates that she is a STEM person. So the opportunity to build these skills that they can use in a way that is going to, I like to say, we are looking to create for our young people a pathway to prosperity. That's powerful.
Chrissy, do you remember last year hearing the story? There was a young man, senior, at the Kansas City STEM Showcase, and he, for all the Project Lead the Way capstone students, and he received one of the Make It Real awards, and he's actually headed off, so he's a freshman this year, getting a journalism degree at the University of Missouri. But he pulled me aside and he said, even though I'm not going into a technical STEM field, I want you to know how important the Project Lead the Way content and classroom was for me. And he goes, I took all 4 engineering years of Project Lead the Way. And he said, it instilled a confidence in me and an ability to work with teammates and to tell a story about the work that we were doing. And he goes, it was that storytelling that made me think about, well, maybe I'm interested in leveraging all my learnings in my Project Lead the Way classroom and do it through storytelling and journalism. And I told him, we need that in STEM skills. We, in STEM spaces, we need somebody who understands the STEM component, but then can communicate that to the rest of the world through storytelling, through graphic design, through a variety of ways. So I love the story about your daughter. I love thinking about, the opportunity for students to think about solving community problems. So they may not be, the next one who's developing a new medication, but they are certainly somebody who is looking around and thinking about the world around them and how can they take those skills and solve problems, whether it's problems in their, in their own home or, a window that isn't working right, or problems that are bigger, community, state, nation, or world. We need those students.
Yeah, and I think that young man's story just speaks to how Project Lead the Way teaches the whole student and gives them these transferable skills that can be used across any industry, any career, any college major. So it's just a powerful testimony to all of the things that Project Lead the Way provides the students.
Yeah. Laura Beth, I think we're landing our plane for you as we say that. So, I think, as I think about, final thoughts tied to what we just shared, I think we're all working to empower students to thrive in an evolving world. We don't know what's coming next. We don't know the role AI is going to play. And so how do we develop students that have the confidence to take whatever is their next step? What's their next course to enroll? What am I going to do beyond high school? What's that next step? So that they know they've got this underpinning of confidence, persistence, teamwork that they were able to amass through their Project Lead the Way experience, while supported by their teacher, their community, by industry partners. I think that's what we hope to do, and in the process, help teachers feel comfortable creating very adept students as they leave their classroom.
Yeah, and from my lens, any way that industry can get involved and support organizations like Project Lead the Way, so continue to support our teachers, that's a win for us. Because in Project Lead the Way, you're creating our workforce through the programming that Project Lead the Way provides, through the curriculum, the teachers that they're training, you're creating our workforce. So any way that industry can get involved, can support, because we need you. We need the work that the teachers are doing. We need these kids to be ready to come and work and build all of these great buildings that we build, become the engineers that we need. So yeah, get involved.
Okay. I have an 8th grader, so you guys are just like speaking to me. And I think there was, Martha, you said earlier, and I had to write it down, about how math skills are not genetic. And that is 100% true in my home, because my son, all my 3 of my sons are great at math. My oldest even chooses to be on a math team where he does extra math. And, you know, I would have never chosen that, but it was just, it's these exposures. And I will tell y'all, because I love the story about your daughter in the 4th grade. My son got to play a stock market game in the 4th grade, which exposed him to the stock market and the financial world. By 5th grade, he started a podcast about it because he wanted to teach his peers how to earn, save, and invest money earlier in life. He's been running it for 2.5 years, you know, and like, you know, it's just these things, it's exposure for these kids.
Right.
But I will tell you, as an 8th grader, they question a lot. Like, what am I doing here at school all day? What am I doing? Right. What is the purpose of me taking all of these classes, and what's my purpose after that? And I love, you guys are giving these kids a purpose of why they're going and what opportunities are there. So just great information. This is so exciting. I do think we could talk all day about this. I did want to shift to some questions from our audience, and we might try to give any kind of wrap up if we have time at the end for any final thoughts. But a question here we had, if we can go into these, it says, what are some ways that schools can begin to make connections with industries? So who would like to take that question on for us?
You know, I can start off, and I feel like that it is, I've heard this over and over again, that teachers don't know how to connect with industry. They're not good at it. That's not true. They don't have time. So I think we can start by, one, making time for our teachers to make those industry connections. There may be a company near you that doesn't, they may not have a title education manager. But if you reach out to their community impact team, whatever that community connected team is that is within every organization, find that team, find that person. I guarantee there's someone there that wants to connect with your young people. I haven't met an industry professional yet who doesn't understand the power and importance of connecting to young people, because, as I said, you are building our workforce. So find that person in the company, pick up the phone, make the connection. Another thing, and Martha can speak more about this, is especially as Project Lead the Way is working to build out these ecosystems, find that ecosystem partner in your region, and because they already have those connections, and have them help you make those connections as well.
Yeah, that's a great call out. So our community partnerships team at Project Lead the Way is working with about 6 different communities right now, but there is also a national STEM ecosystem initiative that has robust participation by about 110 communities. And Chrissy's right, they have industry connections, so you can get to their community page to see if your community is part of one of these national ecosystems at stemecosystems.org. Great way to identify industry partners in your own backyard.
Yeah, great answer there. Thank you both for chiming in on that one. I want to get to this next one. It says, if my school district was interested in partnering with Project Lead the Way, how can we implement it more effectively? And do you recommend pilot programs in a few schools? That's a great question there. Who'd like to take that one?
So one of the best things about Project Lead the Way and our team at Project Lead the Way is that we can help design an implementation plan that works for any school or any district. We have so many examples of a variety of implementations in some of our largest school districts in the country and in some of our smallest schools in any environment. But so even though we can help you design whatever implementation plan is needed, what we know is important is that you have to have administrator buy-in, but more importantly, you have to have teacher buy-in. And we've had some teachers be voluntold, and I actually have a terrific story of a 5th grade teacher who was voluntold. She was going to go get trained in Project Lead the Way launch, and she went kicking and screaming. And because she was a seasoned teacher and thought, oh my goodness, why are you adding one more thing? But she came back to the classroom and she implemented one of the launch modules, and she marched herself back over to the district office and said, I apologize for being cranky. I am having the most fun I've had because she was getting ready to retire. She said, cancel my retirement. I am reaching students I never thought I would reach before, and I'm having a blast. I'm actually collaborating with other teachers outside of my own classroom. So you can volunteer teachers, but I would tell you it doesn't work great that way. So once you have the buy-in, and that's really how you look at this. So we have some districts where the buy-in and the engagement with the administrator and the teaching staff is in one building. And my example, that works from building to building. And you'll hear a building that doesn't have Project Lead the Way and another building does, and they'll be asking for it within the year. So don't try to force fit it. Just implement. That creates success, and it will evolve over time. And our engagement customer team has some of the best folks on it that can help with implementation. And you can go to pltw.org, and there's a place to click on plan for Project Lead the Way, and click on no if you don't have it, and that'll take you to the right people.
Yeah, and for me, my district asked me to teach programming. I was already teaching a networking class and a desktop support class to get students industry recognized certifications to be like desktop support network support technicians. They wanted me to teach a programming class. That was not my strength. I knew about Project Lead the Way. Kansas City has a robust ecosystem. We have 95,000 students, 95,000 plus students participating in Project Lead the Way in the Kansas City region. I believe I'm close on that number, Martha. So because of that, I was well aware of Project Lead the Way. And I said, if I'm going to teach this, this is how I'm going to have to teach it, because they're going to give me the best training and prepare me the best to be able to teach students programming. So for me, it was just having that awareness and then going to my administrator and saying, this is what I need to teach this thing that you want me to teach.
Yeah, excellent answer there from both of you. Thank you. This next one is a question I wondered while you guys were talking, and it says, do you have any tips on getting funding for a program like this?
We do. Project Lead the Way is extremely fortunate to have very generous industry partners and other foundation partners that make investments in Project Lead the Way. And as a result, Project Lead the Way is able to provide grants to schools to get Project Lead the Way started, whether that's to train a teacher or to purchase equipment and supplies. We are in the midst of our annual report for this year, but last year, Project Lead the Way gave out over $15 million in grants to schools. Wow. There are also dollars through the Carl Perkins funding model through career and technical education that school districts can implement high school and middle school courses through those funding. We also have states like Missouri that value Project Lead the Way and have their own state funds to help stand up Project Lead the Way. And then we have actually some universities that have gotten into the game and are funding Project Lead the Way, like the University of Missouri of Science and Technology. They do grants to schools to start Project Lead the Way because they know those students are going to end up on their campus as successful students and end up as terrific alumni. So there's a variety of ways to fund Project Lead the Way. The other thing that I'll say about funding is investing in a best practice program that you know will produce terrific outcomes for your students is a great way to spend your budget and your school budget, and a way to get your community excited about the funds that you're spending, because Project Lead the Way really does make a difference for students and produces the outcomes that we want for all young people.
Excellent. That's incredible to hear. So thank you for answering that for our audience here. Another question here, it says you mentioned professional development earlier. What type of training is needed when trying to be more hands-on or trying to build the skills employers want?
So the professional development at Project Lead the Way is what happens prior to a teacher teaching Project Lead the Way. So as Chrissy mentioned, she's trained in computer science. All of our high school teachers have to go through a 2-week intensive training to teach each course in the high school pathways for Project Lead the Way. Project Lead the Way offers that professional development in person at 5 locations across the country, typically in the summer. But there's also a way to get trained online, and that's a way that Project Lead the Way began investing in professional development to reach more teachers who potentially could have limited funding to get to in-person training. So Project Lead the Way creates the professional development for teachers and delivers that content so that they are able to step out and step into a classroom and begin to teach Project Lead the Way. I think the other thing that comes, and Chrissy, you can speak to this a little bit, is the building of a network. So when you are going through training, you're going through with other teachers. So you'll always have their contact info. And then what the Casey STEM Alliance did by creating this big implementation of Project Lead the Way is that we have a local network here in Kansas City of Project Lead the Way teachers to learn from one another. So that's an opportunity for the way in which you can build the professional development to teach course content in Project Lead the Way. The other professional development I'll let Chrissy talk about is the opportunity to bring teachers on, to industry sites. Casey STEM Alliance does that through their teacher mentor days and opportunities to bring a lot of industry partners to them. And I'll toss it over to Chrissy to talk about teacher externship programs and ideas.
Yeah, so for our teacher externship programs, I also host here at J Dunn something called a student micro internship. It is a half a day, and it allows students to engage with 3 to 4 professionals and then do an activity aligned with that professional's job. When the teachers come in for a teacher externship, I pretty much do the same thing because 1, it gives them an opportunity to learn the skills that that professional is using so they can take that back to their classroom and say, and it can inform their curriculum, and it can inform their some of their teaching strategies, understanding that, okay, I know that this is a project manager. These are the skills that they need, the hard skills and the soft skills. And how can I, in some kind of way, implement something like this in my classroom because I know that these are skills that my students are going to need. In addition, it also gives them some ideas of, I make sure that the activities the students are doing have materials that they are easily able to access. So when I bring the teachers in for the externship, I have them do the same activity. Then I say, you can do this in your classroom also, because it is something with just markers, paper, crayons, something that they don't have to go and purchase items for, but where they're able to use it with their students to reinforce some of those collaboration skills, teamwork, problem solving, innovation. They can reinforce those skills that I know that our workers need, that our workers use, and that your students will also need as they move into their chosen career paths. So that's the teacher externship. We have also hosted teacher mentor days at J. Dunn. We hosted the engineering teacher mentor day. So that's an opportunity, again, to bring teachers in, give them a tour of the facilities, give them some hands-on activities, really give them a day and seeing what is going on at J. Dunn, and meet with multiple professionals, hear from a panel of professionals, hear from our executive leadership team, and really understand the great work that the company is doing, understand that we are here for you, put a face to the big name they may see around town sometimes, and really give them a connection into this industry. They leave here with all sorts of swag, and they leave here with my business card. So you have an industry connection now. You know how to get in touch with me. Let us know, and we can come to your classroom and work with your students.
You know, Chrissy, this reminded me, did you participate in the Missouri Chamber teacher externship? Because yes. I think there are local chambers and there are state chambers of commerce that are also getting into this game of engaging teachers. So reminding any of our listeners to think about their local chamber, because I think you had a great experience with the Missouri Chamber, didn't you?
Absolutely. And you're supposed to, I'm going to brag on J. Dunn a little bit, because you're supposed to get like a turn every other year, but our experience was so highly rated that the person that's in charge of it at the Missouri Chamber, he's called me like 2 years in a row for teachers to return. So this year we hosted a little over 60 teachers, and I did not bring them to J. Dunn this time. I took them out to our KNC job site, which is a data center that we are building for a really big company that I cannot say, but I took them out there and they got to tour the site. They got to hear from professionals from that company, and really had a great day of learning on an active data center job site. So it was really, really cool experience. So yes, get in touch with your local chamber, see if they're doing anything like that.
Excellent. Well, we have gotten through our questions here. Maybe a 30-second wrap up? If people want to learn more, what should they do? Martha, thoughts here?
Well, if you want to learn more about Project Lead the Way, the easiest place to start is on our website at pltw.org. And then from there, you can get in touch with our Solutions Center. If you want to talk to somebody in person, that's usually a great way to get started as well. And depending on where you're located, they'll direct you to either a PLTW director or an implementation team that can get you started. So I'd encourage you to check our website out. Lots to find out, student opportunities, how to plan for Project Lead the Way, the financial investment that's needed, teacher professional development. And we also are beginning to do some highlights of alumni, and that's on the homepage as well. So I appreciate everybody who connected in and is interested about career-connected learning, the wave of the future.
Excellent. Christy, any last thoughts?
Yes, J. Dunn Construction has 26 offices across the United States. The K through 12 program is called Building the Future. So if you are interested in connecting with J. Dunn, please go to jdunn.com/building the future. And you can find a link there that'll give you my contact information. I'm the education manager for all of J. Dunn. So if you reach out to me, I can get you connected to an office that's near you, and maybe get some professionals from J. Dunn in your classroom, or get some sort of engagement happening so your students, or even you as an educator, can engage with a J. Dunn professional. So we are proud supporters of Project Lead the Way, and definitely want to connect with as many students as we can across the United States. So reach out, please.
Excellent. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you to Martha and Chrissy for being here, and for all of you joining us as well. Have a good day.